Project Monster Draft 2. Chapter 1. The monster is a mirror to judge one's normality. Those were the words that the snowflakes would tell us every morning before we were allowed to escape the bitter coldness of outside and into the warmer school building. Warmer being more of a misconception, as the breeze still managed to sneak through the cracks of the stone walls. I stood next to my desk, and only sat once given permission. Too early had I learned that if you didn't listen, they would make sure that you would regret it. My thick fur coat hung from the back of my chair, and I had to prop myself up on my desk with my twig arms so that I wouldn't teeter backwards due to its weight. I dared a quick glance outside, through the glass-stained windows, bleak sunlight reflecting through, casting blue, green, and purple lights into the otherwise dark room. The window depicted the moment where Saint Helio came down from the sun and onto our land. We were taught to worship him in any way possible. After all, he was the one who made it possible to live in this icy desert. He was the one who forced me into my misery. "Peter Woods!" Snowflake Aegen yelled, slamming his hand onto my desk and making me jump. "Are you paying attention?" the monster growled. I stated calmly, "Yes." I could see a wicked smile escape through his lips. "What did the Hail do after the Conference of Anguish in 1306? Trick question. I knew what games the snowflakes liked to play, and I was more than willing to play along. I inched out of my chair and stood tall beside the professor. My smallness was even more accentuated with his tall demeanor. The rank of Hail hadn't been conceived at the time, Snowflake Aegen. "Are you sure?" he hissed. "Yes, Snowflake Aegen." I fumbled a bit on my words. I kicked myself for it. "I see." He rolled his knuckles across the table a couple of times before swiftly turning around as I sat back down. "Does anyone wish to correct Peter?" Correct me? My hands quivered and my heart started to beat faster, thumping against my ribcage like a rabbit trapped in a silver cage, pawing at the bars, gnawing at them, desperately trying to escape. At first, no one raised their hand, but as the snowflake gazed across the room with his fiery stare, someone's hand shot up. "Blake." He seemed satisfied. Blake rose from his chair, hiding his hands behind his back as he twiddled his thumbs. "I believe that you meant the Hail. Not the Hail. In that case, it was the committee in charge of the Conference of Anguish." "Correct." I sank in my chair. My blood ran cold. Thoughts spiraled uncontrollably in my mind. My brain was juggling every emotion possible. I knew what was going to happen. So did everyone else in the room. I could see the look of guilt and dissatisfaction washing over Blake's face. My legs twitched once, twice, 3 times before Snowflake Aegen turned towards me again. He grabbed me by the collar, and I flinched as my feet rose from the ground. The room fell dead silent as he dragged me outside and closed the door behind us. My stomach lurched, fear swelling up into my eyes and forcing hot tears to pool down my face. I quickly slipped them away, hoping that no one had seen me. My knees scraped across the rough stone floor of the hallway as he brought me to the stairs with no mercy. Everyone knew about the stairs, but no one wished to go see them personally. It was a type of unimaginable hell. The disgusting smell of months-old rotten food wafted through the corridor and into my nose. I forced myself not to gag. Not only from the smell, but also from the way Snowflake Aegen was pulling me by the collar, almost choking me before we could reach the bottom of the staircase. My heels knocked violently against each step. My head began to ring, the rabbits trying harder to escape. Snowflake Aegen pushed me forward. I fell face first onto the ice-cold floor. I forced myself not to whimper out of pain, holding a trembling hand up to my bare neck. Behind me, the door slammed closed. I forced myself to stand and banged on the wooden door, but with no luck. "Cockiness only kills the bear, Peter Woods." Snowflake Agen's footsteps became distant echoes. I knew that slamming against the door would be of no use. I slouched down beside a bucket filled with frozen water and hugged my knees up to my face, shivering to make myself warmer. Again, salty tears made their way into my eyes. This time, I welcomed them with open arms. The tears dripped into my scraped knees and made the wound burn even more. The room was dark, and I could barely distinguish my surroundings. Other than the buckets, a lonely bed sat at the opposite end of the door, stiff as a rock, frozen as the bucket. Laying on it would be a death wish, which I wasn't far from, considering my current situation. This was all Blake's fault. If that stupid boy hadn't been willing to disregard my answer, Snowflake Aegen wouldn't have done anything. From where I was sitting, I slammed a tight fist into the ice bucket, breaking the frozen surface into pieces and plunging my hand into the frigid depths. Rage fuming inside of me made me blind enough to not feel the pain my hand was in, slowly turning black as the water seeped into my blanched skin and blue veins. No one was to be trusted. No one could help me. I didn't need help. The word lingered on my tongue. Bitter. Pathetic. Blake rose from his chair, hiding his hands behind his back as he twiddled. Blake rose from his chair, hiding his hands behind his back as he twiddled his thumbs. Whoa. Blake rose from his chair, hiding his hands behind his back as he twiddled his. Ah! The disp- the Whoa. The disgusting smell of months-old rotten food wafted like a waffle. Laying